I know one with there in the back, there's one with there. Anyone, any other realtors? Yes.
Because.
That's right, there's network going on. Cool.
Okay. I want to get this thing rolling right now. I want to, first of all, I want to give you guys, give Curtis LeMay a big, real deal welcome. Thank you. Now, just a little bit about Curtis. Curtis was the investor 18, 19 years ago that got me started in real estate investors. When I talk about one of my earlier mentors, this is the guy. He's a real estate broker. He owns his own brokerage, which is Real Estate Depot. He's a real estate investor. So for all of you out there that are agents and saying, well, I wonder if you can do this, you can do agent, you can do investor, this guy does it both. He wears both hats, and he does it extremely well. One of the things in which we're going to talk about is this particular deal. Curtis, I want you to get up and tell everybody exactly, first of all, how did you find this deal? Where did this deal came from?
This deal was a foreclosure sale about a year and a half ago. I purchased the property next door, and this property here I bought it for $110,000 at a foreclosure sale. The owner had a debt a little over $250,000 was owed. At the time, banks were discounting mortgages big time. They were getting some unload stuff. So I bought the property next door, and the property for $110,000. One under contract with one next door, sold that for $220,000. It took me about 9 months to get this lot developed, because it didn't meet the criteria of the standard bill of lot mechanics.
So just to go over it a little bit, guys, he bought the property next door, and the lot came with it. Yes. It was basically an empty lot here. This house wasn't here. So when he bought the, I know. So when he bought the house, for how much next door?
Bought everything for $120,000.
The total purchase price was $120,000, which included the house next door and this lot, right?
Yes.
Talk about the process that it took you to get from the lot to an actual house being on. How long it took?
So, of course, I renovated the house next door, sold that. In the meantime, I went through the county. The property didn't have the water top up front, so I had to go through, because of it being a main road, I had to go through state highways and do all this engineering work on it. So I want to spend about $20,000 to develop the lot. Once the lot was developed, then I was able to put the house on it. The house itself, spent a little over $73,000 to build it.
$73,000 to build this house. So just think about all you guys.
Now, here's the problem when you go to build a house today. You'll talk to a lot of people, and everybody and their brother will tell you everything, promise you the world. If you're going to take on the aspect of building something, especially for the very first time, before you can take it on, get to know what you're doing. Like get to know your drywall guy, or get to know like those cabinets. I spent a little over $900 for those cabinets. I mean, if you go to a cabinet company, they charge you $3,000.
How much?
$940 for the cabinet.
You want to share that resource?
There's a place right on Capsule Avenue right here in Brooklyn. It's called Woodcraft Cabinets. And these cabinets are made in China. But what happens is that they bring them over here. The guy in New York, they bring them over in big containers, and this guy has a distributorship, and that's how I buy them. But if you buy them anywhere for double that, and anybody can buy them there for that price. The countertop, I have a little over $220 for the countertop. If you get that countertop made anywhere you go, you probably spend about $600 at a place in Glenbury that does the countertops for that. So it's called Superior Countertops. Carpeting, I got the carpet myself. I spent 13 hours for the carpet total. That's it, that was installed. Again, you have to. Sometimes in this business, you have to act kind of act bigger than what you really are. I mean, if you want to buy something, you have to, put on a show, and try to get as cheap as you can get it. The furniture I got at Value Village. It cost me this furniture was the throwaway furniture I got for $60. So, I mean, but it was used furniture. So, my point is that you have to become smart. So that's the theory. But anyway, I sold the house next door. This house is up for sale. It's not sold yet. But
What are you asking?
right now it's $189.9.
What did the next bill say?
$210. $210 with $220 with $10,000. Well, actual profit at the end of the day will be about $110 grand. That's all said and done.
Both deals together?
Both deals together.
Your setback here?
Yeah, I had to go through all the setback requirements. Had to go through a variance because normally you need 15-foot setback on the side. There, I went right up to the line.
Yeah, this side.
So I had to go through, had to go through a variance hearing, had to go through all kind of stuff. I spent about, I spent $20,000 for connection and sewer fees, and spent another $15,000 for the county to go through all the different permits and fees for how to get to that.
Is this a manufactured house or how'd you come up?
Stick bill.
Stick built? How'd you come up with the design?
Place out of a book.
How does it look?
Yeah, out of a
Now
book.
tell people what it's, you mean you say stick built, what does that mean?
It's basically built from the ground. Everything, everything's 2x4, everything's slab board, and everything. There's, what's happening today, a few years ago, if you guys went to build a house, it would have been cheaper to go with a manufactured or prefab. There's a place, there's companies up in Pennsylvania, Muncie Homes, Superior Homes. At the time, it was cheaper to have a house prefab. It was cheaper. But the labor costs, because of the economy we're in, there's people out here now, for example, this drywall job, 2 years ago, you may have spent $35 a board to have it, take block finished. Now, guys are coming in for $20 a board to do it.
What's the total cost per square foot?
I spend a little over $55 a square foot.
You mentioned that this was undeveloped land.
Yeah.
Who was the engineer that
I
did the plan?
went to a company in Annapolis called M&R Engineering in Annapolis. They did all the engineering. It was all part of the total M&R Engineering in Annapolis.
Thank you.
But this was a 50-foot lot. It was a middle of a lot. It's just that the setbacks were so. I wanted to build a larger house this way, and I wanted more of an open house versus a shotgun split. But the theory is, what I tell people today is, if you're going to get into investing, you should know the market where you're at. If you live in Baltimore City and you live in 21226, get to know your zip code. If you live in Howard County and other city, get to know your market. If you know your market where you're at, don't try to explore. You'll become really well what you do. If you want to run around the world and jet shit from here to there, you're never really going to get it. So you have to know your market. That's the secret. That's what I'm telling you. And knowing your market, if you live in Owens Mills, but you want to invest in Baltimore City in one zip code, get to know that market. Don't, you have to know the market. Because not only will you get to know the market, then you'll get, like one guy said, well, find me buyers. One person said, well, find me sellers. If you know the market you're in, and you know that market specifically, you'll do well.
Question, did you find the primary lender to finance it, or did you
Finance
go
stuff.
back?
Yeah.
And one of the things I want you to go on, because the first part of this transaction involved courthouse auction. Talk about opportunities that can be found. Is there opportunities now that can be found at the courthouse auctions? Is there going to be opportunities in the future? And what is your opinion on it?
There's opportunities just turning around. I mean, there's opportunity anywhere you go. I mean, opportunities are your back door, your front door, for auctions, state sales, bang on somebody's door, put a sign out, wave and have. I mean, I'm surprised nobody's put a sign out. You see all these signs out saying, we'll buy houses. I'm surprised nobody's actually not put a sign up and say, I buy a house. People probably won't pat you on the shoulder. Say, I want to buy a house. I want to, I'm helping you back. You see all these signs that say, we buy houses. Somebody should put a big sign out and say, I buy houses. Come talk to me. Sit on the main road somewhere. Give me a response you get. So there's all different options available to you. So you just got your next door neighbor could be your next deal. You don't know. You never know.
I've actually put added signs on vacant property.
Is it working?
It works. It worked gangbusters. I didn't even own the property. I didn't even know. I couldn't get a bank owned the property. Had no way of getting a hold of the bank. Had been trying for like weeks. So I figured that the best way to get somebody, the owner, to call me was to put my sign on the thing. No. The sign stayed up for 6 months.
But it worked though, right?
Any other questions for Curtis? This is your time, guys. You're talking to a guy that does it all.
Does this have a basement?
No.
Okay, so we're on a slab.
Do you have like when you talked about staging and buying their stuff, you didn't contract it outside, you just bought all?
I bought this from the Valley Village thrift store.
Are you storing it somewhere? Or
Yeah, it's a place to store it, yeah. I got all kind of furniture, manufacturing furniture for storing, for doing stage.
So what makes you start that stage?
Because when people walk into a house, it gives you a little bit different, a little more, like I'm sitting here now, I feel more cozy, I can talk more comfortable. I'm standing up and going,
And I'll give you guys a number. In regards to, this is part of Maris that was actually did a study on the value that properties will sell staged as opposed to not being staged. You can get anywhere between 15 to 20% more if your property is staged.
The people can feel home when they see this. If they go to an empty place,
This is a somewhat generic question. You were describing the value of investing in a neighborhood where you know it very well, and that's where you live. And that makes sense. On the other hand, people will say that if you study the country and the demographics, you'll realize that certain markets are far more likely to be profitable than others. But your argument would be, but you don't know
If you know that market, where somebody's saying to you that let me give you an example. Like I'll give you an example right now. They talk about declining values and stuff like that and so on. But let's look. I was with Charlie yesterday.
And he's the only one who can call me Charlie. So anybody and say Charlie.
You go over to Emerson Village, for example. Okay, and everybody's going to tell you different emotions of what's going on. But if you really know what's going on, and you know in your head what's going on, you're going to rethink. They're redeveloping the whole area at the top there. There's values there that have been stagnating. Everything's going to start to turn. So you have to know that market. So I mean, like for example, Las Vegas, Nevada. I mean, 3 years ago, you would spend $500,000 to buy a house there. For example, that same house now is $150,000. So if you can go anywhere you want to go, but you have to. I would rely on someone else's expertise to tell you that market. You have to learn it yourself.
This is single family. So do you need commercial too, like multi-units or?
I'm more bread and butter. More, residential.
Have you always done like this? Actually happened. Done wholesale, or it was always?
Always. I give a deal a couple days ago. And I'll share this with you real fast. So on Monday, there was a property in Suburban Park. Not Suburban Park, Norwood, Shipman's Choice. The debt on the property was $599 with the underwrite. The house is worth about. The real value of the house was about $430, $435. What the real value was. I bought it auction for $210. $215. Next door neighbor across the street finds out about this property and really wants it. Now I just bought it. I was going to wait 120 days to go through the court proceedings and buy it. And they called me. Her and the person that got foreclosed on are really tight. So make a long story short, so I was going to wholesale it to this person, right? And I was going to sell it to them for $330, which is still $100,000 under value, right? And the woman says, well, I can't do that. That's against the law. So you know what? You're right. I can't sell it to you. And then she's been calling me ever since. It's not against the law. You can do anything you want in this world as long as you do full disclosure.
Right.
You understand the logic? So the woman talked herself out, or this woman wanted this house so bad, and she was going to try to Jew me down to some low number, right? Because that's all I could get. She said, I'll give you $10,000 for your time. She said, that's illegal. I said, you know what? That's illegal. I can't sell it to you. You're right. And she's been calling me every day. So you kind of, you understand the logic?
Let me get these numbers. We got it at auction for $210. And the current value in that area after the value is $420. So you got that's 220. Well, I'm just saying 220 from that actual price you bought it.
Yes.
How much repairs is it?
Well, the gentleman was. Here's the side of the story. The people that own the house, they're putting this big $50,000, $60,000 big patio out in the back of their house like nothing's happened. The wife held it from the husband. The wife wasn't telling the husband what was going on. So they got foreclosed on. You know what I'm saying?
And now they're divorced.
Well, they are now. What I'm trying to say to you is that it was a great opportunity. But anybody and their brother, if they went out and they looked at this property, before the foreclosure sale, they would say this sale ain't never going, ain't going to happen. It's going to happen.
And he was just happened to be at the right time, any other bidders were there?
No.
No other bidders there on a property that's valued at $430. You got it for $210.
So you got to get
I'm not gonna, no, I'm not gonna get, no, it's because there's a lot of, when you buy a property at a foreclosure sale, there's a lot of costs that's associated with buying that property. You pay all cost transfers, you pay interest on the date of sale, the date of settlement. You know, it's a 4-month process, then you have to file what's called requisition with the court to have the people evicted. So as everything's said and done, your expense will rise. So at the end of the day, you know, there's still profit.
But what is the profit at the end of the day? Let's just say we're talking a 6-month turnaround.
Be when we pay for it.
There you go. Right answer. Right answer.
Hopefully,
What do you pay for?
I'll tell you one story. I'll tell you one real story. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Okay? Let me go through the story. A couple of years ago, there was a property being held auction up in Baltimore City, and there's a little area off over by Fells Point, called Antique Grove, I call it, where all the antique dealers are. Well, this particular house had a beautiful building in front of it. It's gorgeous, right? And all these buildings around it were real nice. Well, if you went around the back of the building and you looked at the back, there's nothing there. The only thing was there was the front wall. Nothing, everything's gone. A big 3-story building. The only thing holding up was pillars in the back. There was only a brick wall in the front. That's all it was. This guy comes running up to the sale, right? Running up to the sale. Didn't listen to what the auctioneer had to say because the auctioneer was already bidding on property. He says $310.
Oh my God.
and he's bidding himself up with a $310. It's $350. The auctioneer kept. You have to understand when you go to an auction sale, the auctioneer sometimes doesn't live. The auctioneer represents the other party. So the auctioneer keeps bidding this guy up, and he winds up buying it like $405, $420, $430. He's just talking about how good of a deal he got. He took the guy's deposit. I said, "You know what you bought?" He said, "Yeah, I got a big 3-story building, 9 apartments." I said, "No, there's nothing there." "Oh yeah, there is." So the guy, my moral of the story is you have to know what you're doing. And don't, you know.
Can you give us any tips about how to identify which auctions are worth going to? Where somehow you'll have a chance to get it at a good deal rather than get bid up too high by the competition?
There's no such thing anymore. You have to know. You have to take the liberty and and spend the time to go to every sale. There's no answer anymore. I mean, what's happening now, if you really follow the statistics of foreclosure sales, what you're finding out now is that it seems like normally the way it used to work, when a property would go to sale, generally the trustee or the auctioneer would usually ask for 10% of the unpaid balance of a house. If somebody owed $100,000, the deposit would be $10,000. If it was $500,000, it would be $50,000. But what I'm finding out now, a lot of the properties have low deposits. They're asking for large deposits. You understand what I mean by that? In other words, if somebody owes somebody owes $50,000, they're asking for a $20,000 deposit. So the average person would not take the time to go look at that property because they're saying, "Well, that house is way overvalued." So that's to say, get to know your market. If you become good at your market that you're in, if you get to know the foreclosures, the for sale by owners, the estates, the divorcees, the people that taking care of their houses, you know your market that you're in, you'll do well.
Where do you get your sources from as far as finding like real track as far as the foreclosures or foreclosures.com?
You can go to whatever market that you're in. The best source is to go to the courthouse that you're in, the certain court that you're in, and just start following cases. That's the best start. Because what will happen, a lot of the foreclosure attorneys now, they're supposed to advertise within the jurisdiction where the property is. But for example, you know, they could be a Baltimore City foreclosure, but they're advertising it in the Washington Times. So you have to, you have to go to the jurisdiction that you're in, go to that market. Like for example, Baltimore City, you go to the 4th floor. You know, Baltimore County, go to Bosley, go to 2nd floor. You know, and search them.
What did you do before real estate?
I never did.
So your first deal?
Actually, I think you told me you actually started when you was 14.
Yeah, I started working for a gentleman. I was basically a chauffeur. You know, I would just go around and pick his friends.
So your first real estate transaction was a wholesale deal, or what type of deal? What type of transaction was your first real estate deal? As far as
the house I bought myself. I bought a house when I was 13. My dad bought it for me. My dad bought it, so I bought it for him so I could buy it when I was 18.
I've got and I ran up on this house that needs renovation. It's a typical thing that we do, but at the end of it, it said that end of the description is telling you that it's eligible for help you find, there's a group, I think it's Johns Hopkins, that has a program, a housing program, that's supposed to help you get somebody into the house or whatever. I don't know if it's a low-income program or whatever, but have you ever dealt with something like that? And if so, what kind of extra paperwork do they put on top of it?
They talk about stuff like officer next door, live near you, work, natural, and so on.
Every different company, every different bank, every different, like, for example, like, you know, everybody has their own little idea of what you have to do. You know, how they do it. Like, for example, Johns Hopkins, I'm not sure if you all know the story about Johns Hopkins or not. Johns Hopkins, at one time, the area where Johns Hopkins was, the area was a pretty good area. Johns Hopkins was the one that destroyed the neighborhood. They destroyed the whole area, all with the idea of changing the diversity of the area to bring the values down to nothing. Well, I mean, it's good that Johns Hopkins is good at what they did, but they did it the wrong way.
Yeah, well, now they're trying to develop and put, well, you know.
Well, they tore down blocks of houses, like you see, now they got one for sale, they're trying to, you know.
Urban removal. They stole one of mine.
Any other questions?
Yeah. I'm just curious. So, what did you do with your finance? So, you bought a property, a couple of properties in different locations, but how did you deal with that? The cash or finance?
Well, once you start moving, once you start doing your deals, you'll figure a way to be able to save enough money to be able to do the deals on your own, or use other properties as collateral by the next one.
What's your average, like, for foreclosure? Do you go in like 100,000 to say, okay, you know, let's say auctions and stuff like that? Do you go with, you know, say I have 100,000 in my pocket, I know I can spend, I can't go above that, or do you go with like 500,000?
It depends where the deal, I mean, depends where the house is and what the deal is. I mean, in the old days, when I say the old days, a few years ago, if you bought a property at auction for $100 grand, you knew that 3 months later the house would be worth 105 or 110. I'm sorry, I told you wrong. You know that the house would increase, 3 to 5%. Houses are still devaluing. Houses are still coming. They're not going up. They're still devaluing. The question is where the market. We're 10-year. We're 2002 values. That's where the market is right now.
You mentioned that you have another deal going and you have this property. On average, right now in this market, approximately how many deals a month do you think you'll do?
Well,
or does it
the problem is that at one time I was doing between 8 to 10 deals a month.
Oh.
The problem that I have now is as with most people, and everybody's got their little issues. I got some health issues, hernia issues, and stuff like that. So I rather, and then it's trust issues too. I mean, you can have 10 deals that you're working on, but who's going to manage those deals for you, and who's going to do them for you? And you're going to find out that a lot of people out there that you respect, that you think is going to do the best job for you, want to take it out of your pocket. So the question is, how many deals should you handle? Is your amount of deals
you can personally handle?
Yes,
exactly.
Okay. And if you're going to get into this for the first time, or buy 1 or 2 or 3 houses, you got to be hands-on from the beginning.
The house next door, how much did you buy for? How much
renovations? I bought 120,000 for both properties. Both properties.
How much renovations cost?
30,000.
Was this one of those deals where there was nobody else?
There was people here, but there's nobody bidding here. I bought this, but the 10 cents I thought the spot would be buildable.
So they had a mindset of just buying the house. Your mindset was buying the house and developing a land.
Yes. Well, the lot was already developed. The lot was already developed. It's just that over time, jurisdictions will change which you can do. If you came here 10 years ago and you went to build a house here, no problems. But setbacks change, requirements change. I mean, you'll buy. I mean, I never forget the time I bought a property in Ellicott City one time, 3-acre lot, beautiful lot, ready to build a house on it. Didn't pay any mind about what's going on, but there was a moratorium. No matter, even though it may have been buildable 6 months ago, it's not longer buildable now. So you have to know your market. As I said, you have to know your market.
I remember you mentioned about the engineers who design the floor plan and all that stuff.
Actually, that's not the engineers. What happens is that you find this. I got this particular design out of the book, and then you buy the plans.
But the builder themselves, who put that actual house together for you?
I subbed it out to different. I actually did it myself. I subbed it out to different people who do each individual thing.
So you basically got the plans out of the book, and you gave your plans to your contractors to follow, and you basically monitored.
for example, I had modern foundations to put the floor in. I had company out of law that did my training, had a roofer that did my roofing. You know, so you get different people do different things. So we had it's a book. It's right Home Depot. It's a Home Depot. It's called Plans and Designs. It's like $6.95 for me. Or you just go to the library and pick one you want. You know, it just so happened this house, this particular plan, they were building this house, or the house in Woodlawn, they built the same exact house on. So I went and looked at it. I just looked at the layout of it.
How long did this project take?
Well, it took longer than normal, but
What's the average?
I should have had this built probably in 60 days. It took 20 days to build. 4 months. Yeah.
Before we get to sell the other property,
5 days.
5 days. Say your market in 60 days.
Huh?
100 days.
Have you got a contract on this one?
No, but I'm gonna have. I should have. Probably by the end of next week, I should have something else.
I went to an auction.
I didn't want to see. That's the other thing too. I didn't want to sell this property in 2000. You know, what happens? I'm not sure if everybody knows all this, but the idea of capital gains, all this other stuff. The problem is that I want this to be a 2012 sale. So that's why I went to because I'm not an accountant. If anybody here is, I can give you some advice.
Do you have a buyer already?
Huh?
You have a buyer?
Not yet. But
What are you asking for?
189.9. What I?
So all you realtors in here, 189.9 if you got clients, you want to make a commission.
There's 30,000 right now. Marietta County has $30,000 available for first-time home buyer money to assist someone in buying this house. So basically, a buyer can get this house. You know, probably would have to be, you know, get to go FHA, but first thing they can get it for, just 3.5% down.
Any other questions?
What's your best advice? For example, if I'm like a pre-foreclosure, I know it. So I'm working with realtor. So I don't have the money to buy. So what's your advice?
You don't have the money to buy.
Like, if I don't have the money, I know it pre-foreclosure, I know it leave.
Well, you got to be careful. I want to get into this idea about pre-foreclosures. You guys got to be very, you know, I would tell anybody in this room that they're going to get about pre-foreclosure, you need to talk to the lawyer first.
And here's the quickest advice. The easiest deal to do in pre-foreclosures are investor deals. If the investor has a pre-foreclosure, you can talk to them all day long. If there's a non-owner occupied property, that's the only deals you should walk up to when they're in pre-foreclosure. If it's the owner lives in that property, run. Do not deal with that property because you can get in trouble.
Let me give you a perfect example. Let me give you, you know, a lot of times you'll see a sign, you know, and probably people, you know, we buy houses, okay, somebody buys a house. Somebody's in foreclosure, okay? Let's say this was a person. This person's in foreclosure. You walk up and you buy, the house is worth $200,000. You buy the house from them for $100,000. Okay? You buy it for $100,000. I want to give you an example. It just happened to someone. You buy it for $100,000. Okay? 3 months later, you walk away. You're thinking big, right? You got all this money in your pocket. You're doing really good. And just before you're ready to settle, you get a call from the state's attorney. He says, "How you Bob? How you doing, Bob? You bought Mary's house 3 months ago, 4 months ago at a pre-foreclosure sale. You didn't give all the documentation that's required under rental law for you to buy it. First of all, again, I'm not giving anybody legal advice, and I won't be a lawyer. But under pre-foreclosure law, there are certain requirements and restrictions and things that you have to do. They have a 10-day right of rescission. Okay.